smiling. He knows that Texas was up for grabs until this moment, and the backlash will decide it for us, as it did. But Mrs. Johnson has pulled back the curtains and is looking down that street as the mob disperses, and she's seeing something dark and disturbing. Still holding the curtain back as if she were peering into the future, she says almost to herself, "Things will never be the same again." Now it is 1964. The disinherited descendants of slavery, still denied their rights as citizens after a century of segregation, have resolved to claim for themselves the American promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. President Johnson has thrown the full power of his presidency to their side, and he has just signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the greatest single sword of justice raised for equality since the Emancipation Proclamation. A few weeks later, both Lyndon and Lady Bird plunge into the campaign for election in his own right. He's more or less given up on the South, but she will not. These were her people. They were her roots, and she's not ready to sever them. So she sets out on a whistle-stop journey of nearly 1,700 miles through the heart of her past. She's on her own, campaigning independently, across the Mason-Dixon line, down the buckle of the Bible Belt, all the way to the port of New Orleans. I cannot, all these years later, do justice to what she faced. The boos, the jeers, the hecklers, the crude signs and cruder gestures, the insults and the threats. This was the land still ruled by John Birch and Jim Crow, who used the cross and the club to enforce it. 1964, and bathroom signs still read white ladies and colored women. In Richmond, she was greeted with signs that read, "Fly away, Lady Bird." In Charleston, "Blackbird, go home." Children planted in front rows as near as I am to you while she spoke held up signs, "Johnson is a nigger lover." In Savannah, her teenage daughter is cursed. The air has become so menacing that we run a separate engine 15 minutes ahead of her in case of a bomb. She later said, "People were concerned for me, but I was more concerned about the engineer out there in front." Rumors spread of snipers. And in Florida, the threats are so ominous, the FBI orders a yard-by-yard sweep of a 7-mile bridge that her train would cross. She never flinches. Up to 40 times a day from the platform of that caboose, she will speak, sometimes raising a single white-gloved hand to punctuate her words, "The lady always." When the insults in South Carolina grew so raucous, she quieted the ugly words by saying, "They're coming not from the good people of South Carolina, but from the state of confusion." Time and again she announced, "You might not like what I'm saying, but at least you understand the way I'm saying it." And in Columbia, she answered hecklers with what one writer called a maternal bark. And she said, "This is a country of many viewpoints. I respect your right to express your own. Now, let me express mine. Thank you." An advance man called me back at the White House from a payphone at the local train depot. He was choking back the tears. "As long as I live," he said in a voice breaking with emotion, "I will thank God I was here today so that I can tell my children that courage makes a difference." Yes, she planted flowers and wanted and worked for highways and parks and vistas that opened us to the technicolor splendors of our world. Walk this weekend among the paths and trails and flowers and see the beauty she loved. But as you do, remember, she also loved democracy and saw a beauty in it. Rough though the ground may be, hard and stony, and as tangled and as threatened with blight as nature itself. And remember that this shy little girl from Karnak, Texas, with eyes as wistful as the cypress and manners as soft as the whispering pine, grew up to show us how to cultivate the beauty in democracy, the voice raised against the mob, the courage to overcome fear, the convictions as true as steel. Claudia Alta Taylor, Lady Bird Johnson, served the beauty in democracy as she did the beauty in nature and the beauty in us. And right to the end of her long and bountiful life, she inspired us to serve them too.